Thank you so much for that, Zoe. And talking about films, we are now moving to our latest movie trailers with our movie guru over here. JP Sebastian is here. Looking smart, JP. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
You have a very pretty haircut.
Thank you.
Is this inspired by someone in particular? It looks like a diva-licious kind of thing. I feel like you should be in the cabaret. I don't know, like pick a singer. Is it a Whitney Houston kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, totally went for it.
No, take Whitney.
I'm not ready for the drag this morning, everybody. It's too early for that. Okay, but you are here for some movies.
Yes.
The Night.
Okay, The Night is... all of these movies, by the way, that I'm going to be talking about this morning have in common that they're thrillers and they're indie. So they're pokey, they're small, they're uncomfortably claustrophobic in a way. The Night is about a young Iranian-American couple, and they're looking for a hotel. I don't know if they're hopping between cities, if it's a layover or something. They just need to stay for one night. The hotel is very small and creepy, and luckily has creepy portraits hanging around, which is like, these should be signs. Also, if you're the only people checking in, as the wife says immediately, she's like, you know, I don't feel comfortable being the only family here. Nevertheless, the movie has to progress.
That should be a warning sign.
Yes, and the dude at the desk has a creepy look about his face and is sort of coldly welcoming, which I think has a lot, obviously, to do with the political message that might come through in a movie like this. It's hard enough being a foreigner in America. It's hard also being foreigners to yourselves. And what I mean by that, Jamie's already covering her face.
My level of thriller is not to your level.
Don't worry, they're no spooks. Look at this little kid. This kid is, isn't he adorable? Oh no, that's not a good thing. The husband character in this movie, it's unclear whether he has mental difficulties, if he's still like not dealing with trauma from his past, because the night repeats every night, almost a Groundhog Day type ordeal. So it's not clear when the night ends. The movie or the story keeps repeating. The wife seems to know something. Is she even the wife? Are we in the Shutter Island situation here? Is she the therapist? Is this a type of therapy? I don't know. These are things I'm guessing. I haven't seen it myself. But if you love Shutter Island, if you love The Shining, obviously, you're talking about a horror in a hotel, it looks really promising. No date in SA for it just yet. But
I'm glad.
Sometimes, you know, these small, bite-sized, all happens in one situation type horrors are the ones to do the trick. It doesn't need to be sprawling or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm glad that there's no release date just yet, because that doesn't look like my kind of movie. But there's another one, and it's another thriller. JP, what are you doing?
Don't worry, not horrors. So this one is more historically based, 1930 Australia. And Simon Baker's in it. You know the face of the man.
Yes, he was in The Devil Wears Prada.
He was the love interest?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and nevertheless, he was also in The Mentalist, the TV show.
Yes, I remember him.
And what you're seeing there is he rescues a kid from an operation that he was leading that goes awry, or almost leaves his hands. Men massacre Aboriginal people against his command, and he leaves this group of men ashamed of what they have done. And 12 years later, there is a man named Baiwara, who I think is actually a mythological character in the Australian story. And Baiwara is a guerrilla terrorist in a way of colonizers, of settlers, and he's been causing trouble for these white folks in Australia back in the day. And Simon Baker has to go out and do justice because he's a cop. He doesn't care sort of what the politics are or whatever, and he goes back to find the kid who he rescued from the massacre that he did not order. Mm-hmm. The kid finds that he has more in common, it seems, with Baiwara, this revolutionary fighter in a way, and decides to turn the tables on the white cop and says, now I'm going to use you rather than to track my own uncle to kill him or bring him to justice. You're going to help us find inroads towards the power of the colony. So, I mean, good grief, who knew that Australia was this beautiful? Not me, maybe I've been trapped in hotels too often. But it looks really well filmed and very exciting to hear these stories come about. These sort of, I said last week, I was like, more indigenous stories. And luckily, Aboriginal Tinseltown is delivering. No date in the SA just yet, but there are a lot of people saying it looks like the kind of thing that could feel really healing. And what's so interesting actually is, in the Global South, where there's from Brazil, where they've got a movie called Bacurau, which is going to be nominated for foreign feature, in South Africa, where we had Five Fingers for Marseille, there's like this return of the Western cowboy type aesthetic. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's sort of like negotiating something in our history and the history of cinema about machismo and how all that's a farce and how, you know, sort of the dog eat dog will lead to everyone being blind or, you know, an eye for an eye type thing. Excited about Higher Ground.
Beautiful, again, beautifully shot as well. Can't wait for that release date. You have a final one for us, which is?
One of These Days is what it is called. Apparently these things
One of These Days is going to be released, or One of These Days is the actual name?
One of These Days is the name of the movie. And again, a pokey little indie thing. It looks like one of these, you know, bite-sized little morsels where it's the single concept, a competition where desperate people gather around and lay hands on a pickup truck, the most sort of like American image if there wasn't
Lay hands, what do you mean? As in like
sorry, yeah, maybe even in a religious sense, but
like...
it's for competition.
Oh, okay.
They have to hold their hands on the car and in real life, these go on for apparently up to 120 hours. The last man or woman standing wins the car. And so it's just that simple concept. That's where the entire movie plays out. And interestingly, there's this sort of artifice of the television around it, making the fanfare, seem like, oh, it's so jubilant, it's exciting, it's a jolt. But obviously, this microcosmic idea of desperate Americans fighting over this one thing that might change their lives for the better plays out very dramatically, very tragically. Yes, it looks like it's almost a good answer to Parasite in a way. The small, desperate people hustling for a tiny piece of the pie with possibly tragic consequences. Yeah, apparently quite funny at times as well. Maybe a bit too on the nose, because here's this one part where everyone starts singing the national anthem in a drunken haze, because you actually start losing your mind. So yeah, but if it's short enough, then it might be thought-provoking, and like I said, bite-sized thriller, maybe all you need. Ends in a way that apparently no one predicts, and a lot of critics were also quite excited about this one at the awards.
That also looks like a beginning, middle, and end. I like when movies do that. It takes you through a journey, whereas some of the movies I find it's very staged, and it's just like the first movie where I just felt like it was thriller, horror. That really takes us through a journey.
Yeah, which humanizes it in a way, because life isn't just thriller all the time. Like sometimes you have to smile at the enemy while these are your competition, these are the people who you're fighting against, but at the same time you're trying to be a good neighbor, etc., and drama ensues from that sort of collision between the tragedy and the triumph.
Well, JP Sebastian, we are smiling with you this morning, so thank you so much for that amazing movie trailers. No essay release date just yet, but in just a moment, we will be speaking to Dan Weekly about TV appliances and kitchen appliances and homeware we must have in our homes, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a moment.